Physics Bites,
a science podcast in English
by the students of Notre Dame d'Ascension.
Hello, and welcome to Physics Bites, our English language physics podcast from the students of Notre Dame d'Ascension. We have a new group today in our grade 11 carbon project. The new group is composed of 4 students who are going to present themselves.
Hi, my name is Laura.
Hi, my name is Carla.
Hi, my name is Jeanne.
Hi, my name is Garance.
So we have Laura, Carla, Jeanne, and Garance who did a very nice presentation on the contribution from the energy sector to carbon emissions at a global scale. We're going to talk to them today about this. We're going to try and see what they can tell us and what solutions there may be for this. And I have 2 co-hosts today. You guys want to present yourselves?
Hello, my name is Lola.
So we have Lola and
Hello, my name is Marguerite.
Marguerite. So Marguerite, like the other students, was a student of mine last year, and Lola, you came to our class this year. What is your presentation going to be on later on?
Agriculture.
And the agriculture group, and Lola?
Transport.
The transport. So we have lots of good stuff coming up. So, if you guys are ready, how about we start with you guys giving us a short summary of what you talked about, what the contribution of the energy sector is to carbon emissions, and we'll take it from there.
Sure.
So, Jeanne.
Energy from the combustion of fossil fuels is the primary contributor to CO2 emissions, contributing to climate change. To reduce this impact, the adoption of renewable energies such as solar and wind is crucial.
However, these sources are intermittent, underscoring the importance of energy storage. Storage technologies such as advanced batteries and hydrogen storage are key solutions to ensure a constant availability, playing a crucial role in the transition to a more sustainable and low CO2 emissions energy future.
Right, that's another theme that's going to come back later on. The idea of energy and the storage of energy are so important and intertwined that we can't solve one problem without the other ones if we want to fix our carbon issues. Maybe we can go into some details about what you guys talked about.
Yes.
Carla?
So I talked about the solutions that exist to create more green energy. Nowadays there are many solutions in this field to generate a greener energy, even though fossil fuels are still in the majority.
When you say in the majority, do we have numbers like what percentage of our energy comes from fossil fuels and what percentage currently is more carbon neutral or carbon
I think
less?
It's more than a half.
Okay, so it's clear that we know that it's more than half of our energy comes from fossil fuels, mostly, which are what, mostly?
They are natural gases.
Right, so that's been used more and more recently, and still the majority is...
And also petrol.
Right, oil, petrol, and we're using less and less coal, but still it's a big part of most of the developing world. Okay, and when we're talking about more green energies, what do we mean by that?
We mean renewable energy. So basically, it's a form of energy that doesn't release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So that's contrary to natural gases, because when you use natural gases, you have to take gases from underground. Yeah. And so it releases more carbon dioxide, the carbon that was underground for many years, and so it's polluting.
And how are we releasing this into the air?
By collecting the natural gases underground and then using it for different
by burning it, basically, right? The problem is the question of combustion.
Yes.
The question of combustion, the chemical reaction, which takes the carbon, which is in methane or in other forms, and then turns it into carbon dioxide.
Yes.
Okay. A few examples of green energies which don't emit carbon during their functioning, which would be what?
I think one of the greenest energy is from biogas.
Okay.
I talked about it. It's a bit
more.
What is
biogas?
It's when you use organic matter from farms, for example, and you put it in a large tank, and then you put some bacteria, special bacteria in that tank, and the bacteria kind of convert the organic matter into gas. So basically, methane, yes.
Right.
And this methane is not polluting because it's not from underground.
Right. So let's make this clear. It's not polluting in the sense that we're not taking carbon that was underground and adding it to the atmosphere. We're talking about carbon that came from the atmosphere, became plant material, and is going back.
Yes.
So in that sense, it is not adding carbon to the atmosphere. But in a sense, we're still not the greenest form of energy because we have to burn it. And we are putting this carbon back into the air as opposed to...
This was the carbon that was originally in... plants, organic matter, and so it's like a cycle, but it doesn't pollute.
Right, so it's not adding to it, but if we want to look at the future where the main objective would be to reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, this would not be an ideal situation. Okay. Laura, did you want to maybe add something also when it comes to question of the different sources of energies and the carbon
we've got some natural sources of energy, such as water, the wind or sun.
Hydroelectric,
wind energy, and some core energy, solar energy. That are really used today, but not enough, I think.
And these are energies which do not contribute carbon to the atmosphere, or they do, but less? How does that work?
We say that they do not, but the way they're created can produce some polluting, such as for a solar panel, for example. We need polluting materials to create them. And
that's a theme that's going to come back when we go through all the different groups. In that, so we make the distinction between the functioning, which emits carbon, and the installation or the construction or the building which emits carbon, right? So, for example, as you're saying, hydroelectric power doesn't produce carbon when it's actually being used to produce electricity, but if we're building a dam and it uses cement, that produces a lot of carbon during the process. So it's a question of how we count and how we measure all these things. I think, Lola, you have a question.
So you talked about these different types of energies. Would you say that it's a bit too late to change our energy structures, or should it be a solution that we should look forward to a bit more?
Right. So by energy structures, you mean like the way we use energy for our developing world?
Is it too late to switch it up?
Okay, that's an interesting question. It's a very future-oriented one. I think, Laura, you...
It is never too late to change the way we use energy or to create a less polluting energy. We've got a lot of new innovations. We're going to come back after, I think.
Okay.
But the thing is that if we wait too late, it'll become harder and harder to
already
stop.
It is very difficult, right?
Yeah, already.
Why is it so difficult to make this energetic transition, I was going to say? This energy transition. What are the main difficulties associated with changing in the carbon footprint of our energy? Because, so let's be clear on one thing, right? Energy is what allows our society, or has allowed our society to advance. It's what has allowed us to come out of like the 19th and 18th century and have the quality of life that we have today. The more we improve the quality of our lives, the more energy we need, right? There's a correlation between these two. So we're not going to be using less energy. We're only going to be using more energy, and we have lots of the world is going to come into the developed world, and they're going to be going into more advanced forms of living and higher quality of life. That's going to require more energy. So we're never going to use less energy. The question becomes then, what are the main difficulties with this transition?
The thing is that we need to change our habits, and not everyone is ready for that. For example, to reuse, to recycle, everything is quite new, honestly. So everyone isn't ready for that right now.
Okay, and I guess we have a lot of I think Lola, you were going to say something.
Would it be useful to to reduce our carbon emission at our scale, or is it going to be useless if big companies don't do the same?
Right. So that's going to be, I think, an important question in that who is going to be able to make the biggest difference when it comes to changing our habits and stuff. I think so. Everybody wants to have them. Let's go with Laura, and then we'll go to Carla, and then we'll go to Jeanne.
So the thing is that a personal change is important, because a lot of personal change can make a big change. And honestly, big companies are a big concern. However, they care about the people opinion. So if we all change, the big companies are going to change with us.
So you're for the market will follow the consumers. So if the consumers change their habits, the market will change the producer's habit as well. It's a very optimistic way of looking at things. Carla, what did you think about
And
this
also,
idea of transition?
Yes. If only a few persons changes their habits, it's not gonna make a big difference. But I think if everybody, if it becomes the norm to recycle and to use greener energy, it can make a difference. But also the most polluting sectors, such as, for example, the meat producing sector.
We're going to get into that when we talk about agriculture.
Yes.
And,
Also, the transport sector, industry sector. We can change that at our scale. We can't. So I think big companies need to also change their habits to really see changes in the pollution.
We are, however, starting with you guys, because you guys worked on energy, and energy you guys showed us at the very beginning that it was about 70% of all our carbon emissions come from energy, which is why I think that's where the biggest problem lies, but it's also where we can make the biggest difference in changing a few things. So let's maybe go on to talking about some of the innovations that you guys mentioned, which will help us produce as much energy, maybe more energy, while having a smaller carbon footprint. But first, I think Marguerite wants to ask something.
Yes, and for you, does nuclear energy produce GHG gases? And
greenhouse gases,
yes.
GHGs.
And is it a solution to compare to fossil fuels? Do you think it will help us in the future?
Well, nuclear energy doesn't pollute as much as fossil fuels, and
so let's just be clear. What pollution do we have from nuclear energy which would count as greenhouse gases? Are there any?
Of course there are, but less much than fossil fuels.
Right. So the main, I think, carbon footprint of nuclear energy is from the construction of the facilities, right? But while a nuclear power plant is actually functioning, it's not actually producing any greenhouse gases, right? So the question was, is nuclear energy maybe one really good solution? Can it be the solution? Yes or no, and why, in your opinion?
Well, it can be one of the solutions, but of course we need plenty of others because, as said before, we use for nuclear energy the fission, and so it can be really dangerous and it needs lots of energy. So we're trying to use fusion nowadays.
We are working, so one of the innovations that we've been working on for many, many years is fusion energy. Can you just tell us what the difference is between fission nuclear power plant and a fusion power plant?
Well, fusion is when two atoms fusion
come together, we put them together, yeah.
While fission is when two atoms are separated.
Or one atom is separated.
One atom is separated into two.
Which is the one that we use currently?
Yes.
Which one?
Fission.
Fission, right? Basically, we only have fission power plants. What is the atom that we use to split to make energy? Anybody? Come on, guys, we're in France. We're the leader in world nuclear technology. Yeah? But which element? Which element is the main element that we use in nuclear fission?
I would say hydrogen, but maybe it's...
Fission, not fusion.
Yeah, so maybe helium? No.
I think you guys are confusing the fusion and the fission. We did this last year. So, uranium is the main element we use. It's the heaviest natural element. When we split it in two, the energy that's released we use to boil water, turn turbines, make electricity, and then... So where's the danger with nuclear fission? Where does the danger lie?
I think it's because of the radioactivity.
Right. The nuclear product of this reaction can be very radioactive, and radioactivity is dangerous for human health and for living organisms. On the other hand, what are the positives of nuclear energy? What is good about nuclear energy? Why, as Marguerite was asking, why can it be a good solution to our energy transition? Garance?
Thanks to nuclear energy, it is possible to prevent 55,000 tons of dust and 1.7 million tons of nitrogen dioxide and 9,000 tons of nitrogen oxide from being released into the environment.
Right, because it's a form of energy that when it's being produced, it produces no greenhouse gases. So it produces a lot of energy, it takes very little space, so it's very dense energetically, and we know how to use it properly. The main disadvantages, like you guys said, is that the nuclear waste can be very dangerous. How do we handle that? And secondly, it's pretty difficult and costly to build nuclear power plants, right? So I think I have a question coming up, some here from one of my co-hosts, maybe? Lola?
Well, so we're talking about a lot about nuclear energy. How could we change the public acceptance of nuclear energy?
Which is one of the main problems, is people are fearful of nuclear energy, not always for the right reasons.
Not everyone fully understands what radiation, irradiation, or nuclear energy is, and so many don't realize that radiation occurs naturally from the ground and from space, that is all around us, and that it is easy to measure and protect ourselves from it if necessary.
Okay, so lots of education.
So concrete facts that respond directly to myths and concerns can help to dispel specific fears, rather than resorting to masses of data and long articles that bore everyone.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Lola?
So talking about these myths, how could you very simply explain that it isn't that big of a problem and we should change our view on
so basically you're saying,
energy.
Okay, we understand what we should do, how do we actually do it in a way that works?
Well, because it could seem a bit scary, nuclear energy, so what would you say
why are
is
we
the
scared
biggest...
of nuclear energy so much? What is the origin of our fears?
Yeah.
I think it's the accident that happens.
Even before that?
Yes.
Even before that, what was our main public vision of what nuclear energy is?
It's radioactivity and the danger
coming from the bomb,
yes.
right? We saw what it did, and it was the first time the public heard of what nuclear energy is, associated with hundreds of thousands of deaths, destruction, and years of problems after it. So the first impression was a really bad impression, and so it has sort of stayed with our collective way of thinking about nuclear energy. Okay, maybe we talk about some of the other innovations in other sectors. So we kind of talked about that. Maybe you guys, who wants to talk about a little bit about some of the other innovations that we have coming that could help us for the future of energy and its carbon footprint? Maybe Carla, and then.
So there are different innovations. There are one that we talked about during the presentation. Mm-hmm. So for example, we have biogas. I talked about it a bit earlier, and also there is hydrogen-powered energy. Mm-hmm. So this is very useful for example, trains, etc. And with hydrogen-powered energy, it transforms water into dihydrogen and dioxygen. There is a tool.
In a process that we call, what is it called?
Electrolysation.
Electrolysis in French, yes. And in English, electrolysis.
Electrolysis. Right. And yes, and so it turns the water. For example, you have a tool that's called an electrolyzer, mm-hmm. And there is the water molecules that comes in one side, and the molecules are splitted into oxygen atoms,
and hydrogen
ions and electrons. Mm-hmm. And so the oxygen atoms forms into dioxygen molecules,
right, which is what we breathe, which is necessary for life.
And are then stored in a tank.
Yeah.
And then the electrons are blocked by a membrane, mm-hmm. Which the protons can go through.
Right.
And so the protons...
the protons being the hydrogen ions.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And so the protons go to the other side of this electrolyzer, and the electrons are brought by the current, the electric current. And so on the other side, the protons, so the hydrogen ions and the electrons combine together, and they form hydrogen atoms,
right.
Which then form the hydrogen molecules,
right.
And which are then stored in a tank.
Right. So on the one hand, we have basically electric charge moving, so we can produce the electric current, and on the other hand, we have oxygen, which we have uses for, and hydrogen. And the whole key here being that we want to produce hydrogen because, or that hydrogen gas. And why? Why do we want to do that? Why is that such a good source of energy, or why is it useful? What uses do we have? Because we're talking a lot about this in Europe at the moment, in France. Everybody wants to be the leader in hydrogen. What are the advantages of it?
Hydrogen, it can be really useful. I think it's useful also for transport.
Well, we can transport it easily already,
yes.
right? So it's a good vector of energy. And secondly, we can use that energy if we stored in it by doing the inverse of what we did, right?
Yes,
so
also.
You want to maybe talk about that?
Yes, there is another tool that basically does the opposite of
which we would call a battery. That's basically what it is.
It's battery. Yeah. And so it from dioxygen and dihydrogen, it produces an electric current and also water molecules. So the dioxygen basically also splits into oxygen atoms, and the dihydrogen splits into hydrogen ions and electrons.
Right. So the exact inverse reaction. Okay.
And the flow of electrons going from the hydrogen part to the oxygen
molecule, right?
It's so the flow of electrons generates an electric current,
which we can use.
Yes, we use for energy, for electricity, and so the electrons go with the oxygen atoms, and the protons also go through the membrane to the oxygen atoms, and so it forms water molecule.
Right. So basically, the waste product is water, which is not polluting, which is useful, and it allows us to transport this energy in the form of this oxygen and hydrogen from one place to another without any carbon. Okay.
As we talk of recycle energy, for you, what will we do in the future to improve wind energy, for example?
Right, so we'll go to another sector about wind energy, which is a very important sector currently, and lots of improvements there. Jeanne?
Well, for instance, to improve wind energy, we could make the windmills taller so that they reach a height where the wind is stronger. But we could also build them closer to the place where we bring the energy. So in a better location where there is more wind could also help.
Okay. I guess we're not going to go too much into details of the technical side of the wind energy, but we know that the places where wind is constant, like for example in the sea, as opposed to where there's obstacles on land, it allows us to have more continuous energy. What is the main problem with using wind energy as one of our main energy sources? Why is it very difficult to use wind energy as a main energy source for us? Let's go, Carla.
Because to use wind energy, we need to use wind turbines, and we can build wind turbines everywhere because they are very, very loud also. So it's very
supposedly when you're close to it, it can make a lot of noise. Yeah,
very loud. And so we have to build them in an environment where there is basically nothing around or not that much around, and so we can, for example, build them in cities. Such as Paris, and so it can be used everywhere and in every situation.
And they're easy to build. It's very quick. It's not too costly. No.
It depends, but I think it's like it costs a bit, so it's not.
So everything's going to cost a bit, right? Nothing comes for free, unfortunately.
But
I guess the one way to look at it, we would have to at one point compare the cost per amount of energy that's produced, right?
Yes.
And that would give us a good point of reference compared to the other ones. That's one of the reasons why fossil fuels are still the main source of energy, because the amount of energy they produce for how much it costs to get them out of the ground, burn them, make refineries and build power stations is so low that they're still the cheapest form of energy we can use. Let's move on to another question. Let's move on to some of the different questions maybe that your classmates asked. Marguerite, do you have something?
We thought of a question, and for you, if we have to develop all the recycled energy, how we could include the least developed countries in our development, because they don't have the same amount of resources or money as us.
Right. This is one of the big questions: is So we have a lot of really clean energies in the West and in developed countries. The problem is most of humanity is in the less developed countries. They don't have the technology or the resources, and they're the ones who are going to be improving. So the question is basically, how can we help the biggest part of humanity use cleanest energies and better technology, right? Maybe Garance wants to tackle the question.
The development of renewable energies is crucial to combat climate change. By harnessing sources such as solar and wind, we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, decrease reliance on fossil fuels, and promote environmental sustainability. Additionally, it creates economic opportunities, driving growth in the clean energy sector. However, this transition is not without challenges, especially for less developed countries. High initial costs associated with the installation of renewable infrastructures can be a significant barrier. Moreover, the need for advanced technologies and financial resources may make widespread adoption challenging in these countries. There is a risk that the disparity in access to renewable energies may widen further deepening inequalities.
Right. So the question remains, we want to give all this new renewable energy, but the question is, how can we do it in a proper way? Just as your own opinion, do you guys think, what would you do if you were the minister or a prime minister or a foreign minister of a country like France and you had some sort of a power? How would you go about trying to fix this problem? Because whether we like it or not, we have more than half of humanity who's going to be using more and more energy. And if we don't give them good technologies, then they're going to use the bad technologies. So what would you do?
I think that we really need to use international collaboration in this type of situation. Such as, for example, giving money. It can help, or giving directly the infrastructure, I think. To help, and then of course...
True, because if we give money and they don't know how to build it, what are they going to do with that money, right?
A lot of contract and everything, it's not always the case, however. But giving the infrastructure directly can be a way of determining how a country can develop its energies, different uses of it. We can also give them like, I don't know how to call that, some... I don't have the... give them the way how to do it.
Maybe help either teach them or train them, or send people who can actually help them build and learn how to use it at the same time. It's not an easy task, obviously, right? Because there's also security measures. So, for example, if we take the case of France, we have lots of knowledge in nuclear energy, and we know that nuclear energy would be really, really good for helping a lot of developing countries. The problem is, do we give nuclear energy to another country? Can we trust them or not? At least that's the kind of political debate that's going on about this. So my co-host, I don't know if you guys have any final questions or no. We're reaching the end of our episode. There's so many things to ask, right? Yeah, so let's go. Lola.
So we're talking about how to deploy greener energies. Apart from security and money, what would you say are the other big challenges of such a deployment?
Good question.
Well, many renewable energy sources like solar or wind are intermittent and variable, so ensuring a stable and reliable power supply requires addressing issues related to energy storage and backup systems. Integrating renewable energy sources into existing energy grids can be complex. Upgrading and expanding the grid infrastructure to accommodate distributed energy sources and facilitate energy transmission over long distance are very significant challenges.
Yeah, I think this question of storage is the main one because we have a lot of really good clean energies, but they're not always available. Solar energy is not always available. Wind energy is not always available. And if we can find a way of, first of all, storing energy so we can use it with intermittent sources, and on the other hand, sort of store all the, because we waste a lot of heat, we waste a lot of energy as well. If you could store that in a industrial scale, that would help alleviate a lot of the problems. Carla, I think you wanted to add something.
And also, I wanted to add the fact that there is a problem with the cost.
In what sense?
The cost of the infrastructures to produce renewable energy. So these costs have been decreasing. Upfront investments costs can still be a barrier to adoption. So governments and industries needs to find ways to make green energies economically competitive and financially viable. So while green energy technologies aim to reduce overall environmental impact, their production and disposal can have environmental consequences.
So basically you're saying there might be political solutions to sort of deal with the economic side of things. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions. I have one final question for each of you guys. I don't know if you're going to be in agreement on this, and then we'll end our podcast on this. So it's a question of your opinion. If you could do one thing which in your opinion would make the biggest difference in terms of the carbon footprint of our energy production as a country, as a nation, as a continent, as all of humanity, in your opinion, what would make the biggest difference? Which change, which measure, what could make the biggest difference in terms of the carbon emissions linked to energy production? I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, but Laura, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but to me it will maybe be really in a country, like even in the world, we need to really an international collaboration. To me, it is really important because one country, we can say that one country is perfectly green or something. It is not real, but a lot of countries that are a bit green can only be going together and they get greener and greener every time together. I don't know.
So basically, you're saying that even though we have a lot of innovation in green energies, nobody has the ability yet to do it 100%. And in any case, even if you do, each country is so small compared to the global size of things that we need to work together. So for you, finding a solution to have all the countries and people work together would make the biggest difference, as opposed to any purely just a technological solution.
Even if we hope so, one country only acting for greener energy is not enough.
Okay, well, fair enough. I think in any case, when we have so many people on Earth, there's no way of doing this unilaterally. Any other opinions in the group? Yeah, Carla, what do you think? What is your one big measure?
I think the educational side is also very important, because one of the main problems is that people maybe don't realize, and sometimes on the different social networks, you see people saying things like, I don't care about renewable energies because I can get whatever I want with the society that we have today. And so they don't maybe realize the importance of renewable energies and the danger that's present.
So educating them with respect to the short-sightedness of their view of the world, right?
Yes, also.
Okay. Any measures from the two of you guys, Garance and Jeanne?
Well,
what one thing that could make the biggest difference?
Well, it has been said before, but I do agree with Laura. I don't think that if just a few people or a few firms or a few countries make the step, it won't have a big difference because the planet is already so much damaged that we can't, as Laura said, do it if we are not all together.
So we have a second vote for international collaboration as a solution. Any final comments? No? My co-hosts, what do you guys think? What would be a one good big solution? Is there any one good big solution or not?
I think money can make a real difference.
Yeah.
And I think if all the countries develop some budget really big for the environment, we could do it, because I think we need to invest in new energies. We need to invest in the search and the science.
And also, I guess, the deployment of it, right? Like the infrastructures you guys were talking about, yeah.
And I think maybe we need to direct all our energy and our money on that if we really want to make an impact.
So you're more for like international sort of political solution of actually.
And with the
we need to put
laws,
you're more
money,
concrete.
yeah.
Let's put money into it and see what we can do. Lola, what do you think?
Yes, I agree. I think that if we maybe stop putting so much money on war, for example, and start using it to help our planet, we could get somewhere.
which the funny part, the ironic part being most of the war is often for resources, often linked to energy, right? So, all right. And I'm all for nuclear energy, so, but that's not going to go, I think, for a lot of places. It's costly and everything. Anyways, thank you, Garance, Jeanne, Carla, and Laura, and thank you to my co-hosts, Marguerite and Lola. It was a really, really interesting topic that there's no way in 30 minutes of talking about the biggest carbon emitter in the world, but I think we did a pretty good job of at least touching on some of the main topics. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, that is Physics Bites for today. But before we say goodbye for this week, it's your turn to think about and try to answer the question. What do you think would be the best thing to do if you want to reduce the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint of the energy sector? We are looking forward to hearing from you on this in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review and a rating, tell us how much you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on Physics Bites.